Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault. And you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the recovery addict, and boy do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy there.
Got the wrong guy, and the dog was biting him.
He roughing him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
Already. Because I cannot do this properly, I have to just fade that out. I'll just make it go away. So let's see. We have welcome back to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the recovery addict, still in Virginia, headed home, and with you now live in the courtroom in Canton, where the only fan is spinning. We found out it's not the only fan. They have two only fans. But good stuff. But welcome one and all. I would say please come in and have a seat, but that's not working because I'm away from my computer. Woody, first in chat today. Woody, thank you. Thank you, my friend, for being first in chat. I will have our traffic cam pulled up once we've finished making a bunch of maneuvers in about 4 miles or so. So right now it's being GPS for Jen as she is driving. So good job. Made the last little rest stop. Then realized we had the car needed a rest stop too and needed gas. Moments later, could have consolidated, but no, why do that? Let's make 2 different stops. It's good. It's wonderful. Woody came in here. He owns the internet and he gifted a membership right off the bat. Thank you, Woody, for your generosity. Good to have you here. Let's see, we've got a couple of other great people here. Bree is here. Mathis. Good to have you, Mathis. Tony Green. Kelly Graham. Hello, Kelly. Lizzie, 6 pledged degrees of separation. Pledged degrees. That's awesome. Daffy. Hello, Daffy. 80s Music Man. I saw you sneak in here. Welcome. Turned off the lights and locked the doors. Let us back in. All right. We'll be listening to this guy drone on. I think once we get past the key cycles, it'll be better. I want to hear about the accident, the actual accident reconstruction. I want to hear about how the car hit him, how it caused the injuries, why it didn't break any bones, how it threw him. I want show me the pirouettes. Convince me, right? I want to be convinced. I'm going to be listening. Let's see. So I'm really wondering about that supplemental witness list from this morning. Red, I looked at it on Twitter a little bit. It looks like the 4 people they're bringing in are all to authenticate documents. I think a video is a document. I think. We'll see. I think they're all related to the police. See that, which I'm sure is the reason for the sidebar first thing this morning. Went so interminably long. It was long. We've had 4 or 5 sidebars so far today. More sidebars than sirens. All right. Wouldn't that be something? No Proctor? Yeah, no Proctor from the state for sure. I think this might be their last witness. Somebody said that might be the case. Lois, great to have you here. Good morning. We're going to have to go to Charlotte. All right. Just catching up on chat very quickly. More sidebars and sirens. Yes. They did buy a car. To do some testing on. I'm curious if they do some testing and it tracks the impacts. Oh, look, there's a bunny out there in the field. As far as wildlife on this trip, we've seen deer. We've seen a lot of dead armadillos. A few dead, what's the armadillo without the skin, without the shell? Opossums. I think that was a marmot.
I don't think so. He was like checking out that branch, trying to decide if he wanted to get
Pretty sure it was a marmot. Or like a woodchuck type thing. I just didn't see enough tail on him to be a beaver. We might have seen a beaver.
Take the exit.
Apparently I wouldn't know a beaver if I saw one, so went to Buc-ee's though, so yes, I should know what they look like. Saw a turkey, saw some bunnies, couple squirrels, a few birds. That's about it. So no bears. No bears. Red says, I was speculating that Proctor hasn't responded to a subpoena to appear, so the defense is going after the text chain buddies to get the text in front of a jury. Oh my goodness. If Proctor is like in the wind, if he's gone, that would be crazy. That would be crazy. That would be, if he just accidentally scheduled a trip to Aruba or something for the entirety of the trial. That's really bad. That's what the buzz is. I'm not able to remove a word from the screen, and now we're buffering. Don't touch. Did you bump anything? Don't touch, don't touch, don't touch. Did you guys bump something? Brooke? No? Okay.
Maybe the cords. Did you bump one of the cords with your feet?
All right, guys, I'm fixing it right now. It just takes a, for some reason, when the connection gets lost on the network, which I think was my fault, bumping the cable, I have to reboot the laptop. So it's just rebooting. And we'll bring you court once it starts here in just a moment. Meanwhile, enjoy a very chilly Virginia right now. Like it's so cold now. I thought this might be snow, which is crazy because it was like 80 degrees in Tennessee. All right, laptop's back up, just coming back in as we speak. Give me a minute. So now it's opening all the apps that I don't need. Shut those down so it doesn't cause any memory issues. All right. That's okay. Back in the studio. We have camera. Make sure we get. There's Quartz. All right. Much better. All right. Now we're ready. So now I'm not going to bump anything for the rest of the way home. I do have to say a big shout out to whoever won the internet and kept it working. Angelique, on the record, 12 months, off the record, a little more, safe travels. Thank you, Angelique. Love it. Thank you for your support. Officially hit the year mark, but much more than that. We know that. Woody has the internet. That's correct. Woody, thanks for keeping Starlink up and running. It was my fault. I unplugged the cable. Sorry, kids. I thought it was you. Mom will buy you all ice cream on the way home. Just kidding. It's so cold. And now I'm in trouble with Miss Starry. I only have a 3-hour drive since Red Finch. We have 4 hours and 15 minutes. So basically we have more drive time left than there is court in Canton. Richard says they're making the data fit to convict her. That is not how it should be. And if she did it, then they shouldn't have to do that.
That is so true. And I heard Ian saying something about that. He was commenting on how they changed their theory over and over and over again because the goal has never been to figure out what the truth is. The goal is to stick it to her. And so they're fixing the data to stick it to her. And that has just been the case for so long that it needed me hearing someone else say it out loud to say, really messed up.
Let's see. Nothing like it says when Karen left John's home in the morning, she created the key cycle 1160.
Oh, the 3-point turn that she's getting out of her garage? Is that what you're saying?
Don't we have testimony that from Karen?
Sure, but people do 3-point turns all the time. She's saying there was a 3-point turn that took place at 11 whatever in the morning, 6 in the morning. Why? How do we know that this thing that they're analyzing isn't that 3-point turn?
Hang on 1 second. Okay, got rid of the echo a little bit. You'll have to listen with headphones though.
Does that make sense? Because they have a 3-point turn.
And be
She
careful,
did
pull these
do
up.
a 3-point turn.
Pull the headphones up.
And they can identify a 3-point turn on John's data. But it's also possible because the 3-point turn is not linked to any specific time that the one that they're analyzing actually took place at 6 in the morning when she's getting out of the garage.
I'd have to look at the data and see. I obviously right now not in the best place to tear into that. Kid picking up sister saw Karen in front of the house at the same time they say she was doing a 3-point turn. Well, the problem we have, everyone has their own clock. Everyone has their own memory of about what time that occurred. So,
but some people have text messages at that time that they're like, oh, it definitely happened. And like, oh, I'm currently texting you to see if you're coming in.
Yeah. I'm not sure. The text time should match up with John's clock. I mean, everyone's cell phone should be pretty much the same, right? We're all connected to the same cell towers, and all the cell towers are connected to the satellites.
Right.
It should be about the same.
But the problem is they're trying to align the Lexus to the clock, to the phone clocks, and they don't have anything to link that to other than this 3-point turn. And I think it was Angelique who was like, hey, there's another 3-point turn that took place chronologically really soon after this. Like, she did the 3-point turn in the middle of the night and the 3-point turn in the first thing in the morning. And if you're not linking it to a specific time, those show up on the data stream as right next to each other. You know, they've got the right.
Why is the fan stopped spinning for you guys? You guys, okay. I thought it was the overpass. Sorry. Not enough key cycles. There's not enough key cycles, not too many. I'm sure defense will be all over that. We're also pulling GPS time. I got very confused on that. I think it's purposefully confusing.
Because they don't know. They're guessing, but they don't know.
Count backwards from 1164. It was driven into the Sallyport. That's 1163. It was towed onto the tow truck. That's 1162.
Okay, I have brought that up several times. Watching them reverse the Lexus to put it on top of the tow truck, I bet they hit 24 miles per hour.
I think the tires spin on that one. There's a lot of snow then.
Yeah. And that's what he's saying. He's like, I don't know how fast it was going. The tires were spinning. Well, they're certainly spinning during that 3-point turn.
It'd be nice to have recovery out of meetups in whatever state you are in, but the internet is so wild, so maybe not good. It would be fun though.
We need to schedule way more time for each area if we're going to stop.
Yeah, this trip was just like nonstop. It was just run, sleep, run. That was it.
Swim.
And swim. Run and swim, and then come back. It's a long way to go for a community pool.
But it was cool.
But it was, for that 1 hour we were there, it was awesome.
So, okay, so somebody's saying you got to walk backward through all the different key ignition things and figure out.
I don't have the key cycles spreadsheet in front of us, but if we take the key cycle they say was pulling into the Sallyport, and we can work backwards, then you can
figure it out.
You can figure it out, because then we know that it was driven onto the flatbed.
We know it was a reverse out of her garage in the morning.
Yeah.
And that was before the side work.
Yeah, there shouldn't be any missing key cycles. This is not something that's all right. We're back in port. Hear ye, hear ye.
court is in session. Please be seated.
All right, Mr. Brennan.
Thank you, Ron. Dr. Welcher, when we left off, you had given us your opinion on this slide. Could we proceed to slide 35, please?
Slide 35.
I believe the next slide is 35.
Correct.
Okay. Now, when we look at this slide, I'm going to ask you to zoom in, and if we can start from left to right, and we can identify each category as you discuss it and explain to us the importance of the columns.
So we already touched on this from left to right. The first column is the continuous running clock. Second column is where I converted it to minutes. You can see we're on trigger 1162.2. This is the second trigger. The particular boxes that are highlighted are where there's change. For example, in the upper right, when you're transitioning from drive to neutral to reverse. And then I already discussed this a little bit, but where the wheel's slipping, you can see you have high acceleration pedal application, increase in the RPMs. But when you look at the effects on the vehicle, you can see that it's accelerating less. So that's indicative of slippage of the wheels. And then I simply show at the bottom the math I use to derive all that. So again, we touched on most of this. It's the same slide you saw before, just to show how corrected for the speed.
If you could zoom in for a second, I want to ask you a question about the RPM column.
RPM column, go ahead.
If you could zoom in.
Oops.
You see in the last line, the last piece of data captured, the RPMs changed from 3,200 to 3,300.
Correct.
And the accelerators is, if fair to say, is that depressed? What's the way you characterize that?
Sustained.
How would you characterize 74? What does that mean?
I mean, it's 3/4 of full throttle. It's 74% of full throttle.
If above it's 74.5, it drops to 73.5 and then back to 74. Why is the RPM higher than above?
So there's, again, this data is referred to as being asynchronous. You're reporting it at particular times, but the computer's scanning the network for the data. So it's not all on exactly the same time step. Not only that, but there's frequently, oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
There frequently is a delay from when you step on the accelerator pedal to when that translates to increased RPM at the engine. It takes a little time to build it up or take it down.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So similar to what we did on the first one, basically what we did is we took all the text stream data that we had, which includes the shifting, the forward, the reverse, and the steering. Again, there was a tiny bit of leftward steer, and put that into a simulation program where we're simulating what the Lexus will do. So we've taken into account the mechanical characteristics, the steering response of the Lexus. So this is to show what it represents on the left-hand side. So each one of these little hash marks, a different color, represents 10 feet. The red lines show the extent of motion. Remember what I said, it initially pulled forward, then backed up past its initial spot, and then went backwards further distance. So what this shows is where we simulated this in a program called HVE. So that's the vehicle, the Lexus pulling forward. And then it accelerated in reverse past its initial starting position and came to rest right there.
Doctor, when you say it came to rest there, do you have data that the defendant's Lexus stopped there?
No, it did not come to rest. I misspoke. that's where the tech stream data ends. As you can see here, it's still going. It's still going approximately 23 miles an hour when that ends.
You'll have to zoom in on that so the jury can see what you're referring to. Please.
So again, as I mentioned, the tech stream's taking a window of data. It doesn't take anything outside the window. You can see that when we account for the wheel slippage, that the vehicle at the time of the last data point, again, is at 74% throttle, 3,300 revolutions per minute, and is going backwards approximately 23.9 miles per hour. And you can see it's traveled a total distance backwards of 53 feet back from where it initially started, or if you consider where it pulled forward 34 feet and then backed up 53 feet, add those two together from the point it pulled all the way forward. So this is 10, 20, 35 forward. And then I'll go 10, 20, 30, 40, 53 back for a total of 87 feet. So from the maximum point I pulled forward to where it backed up, again, that was 34 feet forward, then a total of 53 back, total travel distance of 87 feet. So went all the way forward where it stopped, it then backed up 87 feet. And when the tech stream data stopped, it's still moving. It's still moving about 23 miles an hour, and you're still at 74% throttle and 3,300 revolutions per minute on the tachometer, RPM gauge.
We could turn the light on for a moment. Dr. Welcher, in your analysis of the data and the information you acquired and the evidence that you relied upon, did you come to some conclusions and opinions regarding the defendant's Lexus that evening?
I did.
As part of that opinion, you mentioned that you considered mileage to map distances as one way of mapping the location of the vehicle. Do you remember that?
I do.
If you could provide us with slide. I believe it's slide 25. And could you widen the left-handed box a little bit? And you mentioned you measured or you ran information about distances between different routes?
Correct.
Specifically regarding Fairview to Meadows, the first box. Do you see that?
I do.
There are 3 different mile numbers.
Yes.
And then there's streets to the left. Can you explain what's set out in that box?
Sure. It's basically 3 different routes you can go: Sherman Street, Pleasant Street, Washington, and Sherman Street.
When you considered the shortest route, 2.3 miles on Sherman Street, did you attempt to determine how long it would take to travel 2.3 miles, how fast the car would have to be moving or how slowly it would have to be moving to travel 2.3 miles in 4 minutes and 15 seconds?
Yes.
And what did you determine?
So to go 2.3 miles in 4 minutes and 15 seconds, you would need an average speed of 32.47 miles an hour.
What if you took the longest route, 2.8 miles, and you considered 2.8 miles in 4 minutes and 15 seconds? Did you make a determination?
I did.
Could you share that with the jury?
It's 39.5 miles per hour.
Is that what the average speed of the Lexus would need to be to travel that distance in that
Correct.
time? Okay. Now, turning to your study of these tech stream events, do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty how many triggering events occurred? How many triggering events occurred in that ignition cycle 1162?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to allow that.
In 1162, the tech stream recorded 2 triggering events.
And do you have an opinion as to the type of triggering event, the type of movement of the defendant's Lexus in those 2 triggering events?
I do.
Regarding first triggering event, 1162-1, do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty what type of event the first triggering event was?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to allow that.
The actual trigger was excessive rearward acceleration. The event was during the course of a 3-point turn.
And do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty the time between triggering event 1 and triggering event 2 in that cycle 1162?
Yes.
And could you share with the jury your opinion to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty the time between those 2 triggering events?
Approximately 8 minutes and 5 seconds.
Do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty as to the type and triggering event of the second event, 1162-2?
I do.
And could you share with the jury your opinion to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty the type of event to that second triggering event?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to allow it.
It's, again, the trigger event itself was a transition into reverse and then high throttle application. It's a forward motion followed by a lengthy high-speed rear impact or rear motion.
Your Honor, I'm going to move to strike that portion of the answer.
Yes, I'm not going to highlight it. So get the answer again.
Do you like me to ask the question again, Your Honor?
Yes, Mr. Lessie, yes, right? I'll strike the previous answer. Go ahead and ask the question again.
Okay. Do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty as to the nature of the second triggering event, 1162-2?
Just for the record, Your Honor.
Yep.
Yes.
Could you share your opinion with the jury?
The triggering event was high throttle opening in a transition to reverse. It's a forward motion followed by a higher speed rear motion. And at the end of the trigger event, you're still at 74% throttle.
Do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty the entire distance captured in that 10-second window during the back maneuver or 1162-2?
Do I have an opinion?
Do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty about
Yes.
the entire distance that is captured in that 10-second window of the second triggering event, 1162-2?
So it obviously only captures what's going on during the trigger. It doesn't capture before or after the trigger.
Understood. Do you have an opinion as to just what is captured as far as the distance?
Yes,
And what is your opinion?
that it's 87 feet. So again, the initial forward motion is 34 feet, followed by it backing, crossing the initial point, and then backing up an additional 53 feet.
And finally, regarding this part of your analysis, do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty as to whether the defendant's Lexus was decelerating, accelerating, or remaining the same at the end of that data captured at the triggering event 1162-2?
It was accelerating at 74% throttle.
In addition to your analysis of the tech stream data, one final question. Do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty the relative time this backing maneuver occurred with the defendant's Lexus that you just spoke about?
Yes.
And could you share with the jury your opinion to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty?
Sure. It matches the window of the cell phone data for Mr. O'Keefe that puts it in front of 34 Fairview. So the backing event occurred somewhere between 12:32:04 and 12:32:12.
So I now want to turn to a different part of your study of this case.
Okay.
At some point,
Now we're on to the impact.
did you try to determine whether there was an intervening event that could have caused damage to the defendant's right rear taillight separate from a collision at Fairview?
I did.
Objection, Your Honor.
So the form of the question is to Brennan.
Okay. At some point, when you looked at the data and analyzed this case, did you consider including or excluding evidence, or did you analyze evidence to reach a conclusion, including or excluding whether there was an intervening event that caused damage to the defendant's Lexus right rear taillight?
Yes, I did.
When you started your analysis, what information or claim or evidence did you become aware of that you want to analyze to include or exclude as the cause of that damage?
Sure. So my approach to this case is three prongs. I'm looking at the downloads, the technical information. I'm looking at this backing incident, and then I'm looking at Mr. O'Keefe's injuries and how they relate to the events, potentially. So the second prong, which is looking at this data. So I had a Ring doorbell video showing Miss Reed backing the Lexus out of Mr. O'Keefe's residence at approximately 5 o'clock in the morning. And so we wanted to look at the backing activity and whether that contacting Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle, whether that was sufficient to cause, or what damage it could cause, and particularly was it sufficient to cause damage to the right rear taillight of the Lexus.
When you were asked to engage in the study, were you ever asked to reach a certain conclusion?
Never.
Was there ever any influence other than the data and facts on your analysis?
There's never been any influence. The influence, it's whatever the data shows.
When you engaged in whatever studies you undertook that you'll explain to the jury, were you given any direction or limitations on what you could or should do?
No.
When you received the information, did you understand, regardless of the result, it would be provided to everybody?
I guess generally, yes. I mean, I go through the data, I give you the results, you do with them whatever you see fit.
Okay. And in this case, when you decided to engage in that study, had you had an opportunity to review the Ring video footage from Mr. O'Keefe's home on the morning of January 29th, 2022?
Yes.
Tell us how you went through your study, how you began, and the steps you took, please.
Sure. Probably be best on the slides. So one of the things we first did was to get an exemplar Lexus. What does exemplar mean? It just means I got the same exact year, make, and model vehicle as Miss Reed. So Miss Reed's vehicle is on the left-hand side, taken during my inspection. And I found this exact same year, make, model, manufactured at the same plant, everything Lexus in Texas. So even though it looks like a European plate, it's a Texas plate. Purchased the vehicle, had it shipped out to California. So I verified that the Lexus is in fact the one I got, the same exact one as Miss Reed's. These are all the standard equipment. Miss Reed's is on the left. My exemplar is on the right. It says Reed Lexus TIS, that's Toyota Information Services, or Toyota Information System. So I ran it through TIS, which is the umbrella program under which TechStream runs. I also ran it through My Lexus, which is the Lexus website. And then started about doing what's referred to as a photogrammetric analysis of the video.
Can you explain to us what a photogrammetric, help me with the word, photogrammetry?
Photogrammetric. We're doing photogrammetry is a photogrammetric analysis.
What does that mean?
It's just a big fancy word to saying you're looking at data in photographs And what we're trying to do is take two-dimensional images, say you get from video or photographs, and knowing some information about the photographs and some of the dimensions of things in the image, get or convert it to a three-dimensional space. In other words, be able to get exact three-dimensional measurements out of that two-dimensional image. So I had the video, just to show the provided video that I was given. So Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle. I don't know if you noticed, but there actually is contact between the vehicles. So one of the first things we wanted to do is determine the frame rate, which is how many video frames are played per second. Your normal kind of video camera has about 30 frames per second. Your standard movie is 25 frames a second. You know, a modern IMAX is like 60 frames a second.
Movie's 24.
The frame rate of the camera, how many images it shows per second, because video and films are just single images played really fast. So it looks like motion. And so determining the time between each frame tells you how much time occurred. So if we know the time between each frame, and we can figure out how far the vehicle moved, distance divided by time is speed. So we put it through a couple different programs. This is called AMP5. We got 19 frames a second. This is a specific forensic program called Axon Investigate, 19.8 frames a second. This is a publicly available program called FFMS. Same thing, 19.8 frames a second. Another program, Media Info, 19.8 frames a second. Anyways, 5 different sources, we're getting 19.8 frames a second. So what we've done is add information now. So now that we know how many seconds each frame represents, we now put a clock back in to tie that into time. So it's the same exact video, except we have a frame counter now, and we have a time. So we have some information now on the time between each frame. So here's frame 0. This is frame 265. We're 13 seconds into it. Here's frame 305. Notice you see brake lights on the back wall here. Notice how they're not super red because you still have reverse lights on. Now they all go off. So the Lexus brake lights have been turned off at frame 353. 356. Lexus brake lights begin to come on. 357, they're back on. Lexus comes to a complete stop at frame 369. 384, the reverse lights turn off. So now look how red this is because we no longer have the white reverse lights in it. And you can see the Lexus starts to drive forward. So frame 825, this is after the Lexus has left the scene. But notice the tracks in the snow. So we have very definitive locations for the wheels of the Lexus. We lay over a grid on the various frames. So we then took the images and did what's called clarification, which is where you overlay images from multiple versions or multiple views of the same vehicle, and it helps sharpen the image, but it slightly dulls the color. So you get a little cleaner, crisper image. So here's Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle before clarification, after clarification.
Excuse me, Your Honor, pardon my interruption. Can we get numbers of the slides as we're toggling back and forth?
Sure.
Absolutely. Okay, I'll make an effort. So slide 76. You're welcome. Going to slide 77. We're going to focus in on this area here. So what we will actually show is where the snow was displaced in these two spots, spots right across from here and right across from here. If you could focus your attention on those. Slide 77. So slide 78. To bring us all together, we went out to Mr. O'Keefe's residence and took a scan, a laser scan. So you see the laser scanner over here. Laser scanner is right here. Fence hasn't changed position. The camera's changed a slight position. We can account for that. So here's the subject video. We have the correct resolution. There's a new camera. It's going slightly faster frame rate. That just means we have different times between frames on the new camera, but we're simply using it for calibration to the old camera. It's the same container for the MP4, and it's using the same video codec. A video codec is how the computer encodes the video.
Next slide number, please.
Oh, yes, thank you, Your Honor. Slide 79. Slide 79, part 2. So really, we care most about is the resolution. So slide 80, you can see these are what are called control points. So from the laser scan, we locate these various points. So the 3D scanner knows the exact position of all these points on slide 80 in the image. And so what we can do is use this information in conjunction with the video to create a scaled version of the video. So when we have three-dimensional images or three-dimensional measurements, we can then use that to give us some three-dimensional information from our 2D video. So there's the points on slide 81. Slide 82, excuse me, slide 81, second part, we're basically just fading in. So what you see now, if I go back to the beginning of slide 81, this is the picture from the video camera. And then what you see here is, which is barely any difference, and that's because what we've done is we've now overlaid the points from the laser scan. So now each one of these little speckly points, we know the exact 3D coordinates of those. So we can now know the exact position of all these fence posts, all the positions on the driveway, and we can use that to calibrate. Going to slide 82. So using that information, it's called solving for the camera. We verify that we have appropriate residuals, meaning we don't have too much error. Slide 83. Okay, subject video. Then this is the new the subject video with the control points overlaid on it. That's the subject video where we're phasing in the laser scans of the scene, 84. This is both on slide 84. I'm just toggling between the point cloud and the video. And what I'm trying to illustrate is how well we were able to overlay the point cloud onto the video data. So for example, if you say watch one of these fence post points up here while I toggle between the video there's a laser scan, there's the video. So we've done a good job. Again, the residuals show that we've done an adequate job of matching the data. Slide 85.
Little self-bolstering there. We've done.
So what I'm doing here is toggling between, this is the video of the car. Remember I told you I went out and I inspected Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle and did a laser scan of it? So we're now taking that laser scan of the video, or excuse me, of the vehicle, and overlaying it onto the car in the video. So this is the video image. That's the laser scan laid on top of it. So we know all the dimensions in the laser scan. We know all the dimensions in the scene of this. We have the tire tracks. We can create and take data points along the tire tracks. Create a map of those. So green is the right rear. Again, the vehicle's backing out, coming, slide 87, coming out this direction, backing here, stopping, pulling.
At what point does this just become Photoshop?
Pulling forward towards the bottom of the screen. Backing out here, pulling forward like here. Slide 88. So this is the Lexus lined up. This is when the Lexus has come to a complete stop. So this would be maximum engagement. Again, this is just toggling frame 88, showing that we have the time and the frame number. 369 on the same slide. We've now overlaid the Lexus laser scans on top of the image of the Lexus. So there's the video image, a still image that we took from the video. And here's where we overlay the laser scan of the Lexus. So we've overlaid the laser scan of the Lexus onto the Lexus. We've overlaid the laser scan of the Chevrolet onto the Chevrolet. And we've overlaid the laser scan of the scene onto the scene. So now what that allows us to do, we now know the position of everything in there. And we've also tracked the position of the tire tracks.
Now we can do ESPN replay and look at it from any
So that's
angle.
what it looks like if you overlay the computer model of Ms. Reed's vehicle onto the tire tracks.
Slide over, please.
Oh, my apologies, Your Honor. Slide 89. And then I'm just toggling slide 89 where I turn the vehicle off so you can see how the tire positions match up. Another toggle of slide 89, how the tire positions line up with where the end of the snow was. From all that information, again, we lined it up in the video, we lined it up in the scene, we have the two vehicles. We can get the exact position of the vehicles when that Lexus stopped. So when that Lexus stopped, that's going to be the maximum engagement. So from that information, we can get the angle of the vehicle. We can get the degree of overlap, the impact configuration. And it's hard to see because of the angles and because these vehicles are not at angles to each other, the exact contact. Now I mentioned, and we're on slide 94 now, that contact on the rear of the Chevy Traverse. So you can see we actually, you can't see. So we took a whole bunch of data points within those two areas where the snow got dislodged. And we're looking at where that is. So if you look at that on the vehicle, so this is where it is on the rear of Mr. O'Keefe's Chevrolet. You can see it's about 25 and a half inches above ground, 32 and a half inches above ground. Here's Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle. So these marks are kind of, this is the Chevy Traverse words, are approximately right here. Again, I had the opportunity to inspect Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle. There's no damage where these marks are. So sure, it knocked the snow off, but it wasn't sufficient to cause damage to his vehicle. We then mapped that data onto Ms. Reed's vehicle to look at where that height is. So you can see the only contact marks are down at the bumper level. I mentioned how that bumper sticks out. This is exactly where you'd expect it. So the only evidence of contact is nowhere near the upper taillight. I emphasize the word upper taillight because it is right in line with the lower taillight. But yet the lower taillight also was not broken. So again, 25 and a half, that's 24 right here, 25 and a half. That's 24 right here, 25, 25 and a half. That's right where that scuff mark was. It's also right at, again, the level at the top of that light. This light is not broken. I've looked at the front of it. I've looked at the back of it. I've looked all around it. It's not broken, and it sticks out further than the light above it.
Okay, I'm not buying that.
Using those positions, matching the overlay of the vehicle, we can get the speeds from that. We know where the Lexus is. We know how much time it is between each frame. So we know how far it moved. And so what we know is that when it first came to a stop, right before that, it was going about 0.7 miles per hour. So realistically, somewhere between 0.5 to 1 mile an hour, just to account for some variations, but definitely going 1 mile an hour or less at impact.
Slide number.
Your Honor, slide 99. That's the dimensions. Slide 102. Similar to what I said, no damage to that light, no damage to Mr. O'Keefe's traverse in that area. And then if I could, I would like to go back because I realized I skipped over something.
I guess he just gets to.
So this is
narrate freely.
slide 85. So this is Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle before contact.
Huh, I'm missing something. I'm missing the slide. Say it. Say it out loud. Say the quiet part out loud.
I don't know what happened this time.
I don't know what happened to that slide. He just said it. What? There's more. You prepared more data that wasn't turned over? What? Where did that go? Can't make this stuff
The
up.
slide shows that there was snow here, now there's no snow there.
Dr. Welcher, did you look on the driveway after the touching between the two cars to see if you could see anything on the snow at the back of Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle?
He's not paying attention. He's still looking for that slide.
So referring to this slide,
this
is after the Lexus has pulled away. Looking in the snow, I see nothing in the snow.
Oh, okay.
Were you looking for anything in particular?
Of course I was. I was looking for taillight fragments.
In any of the videos that you have that show Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle after the defendant's Lexus touches it, do you ever see any remnants or shards or fragments of taillight on the ground?
I do not.
He's flipped through his presentation like 15
When
times
you
now.
did your analysis and study,
The judge never allows defendants
trying
to do that.
to include or exclude this touching as the source of damage to the defendant's Lexus rear right taillight. Did you consider speed as part of that analysis?
I did. I considered speed, and then again, knowing we have the positions of the vehicle, we looked at the degree of overlap, and there's only about 2 to 3 millimeters of overlap between the vehicles, which is insufficient to cause the tail light that's recessed in from the edge on the right rear of the Lexus to contact the rear of the Chevrolet.
Considering all the data analysis that you did you come to a conclusion to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty whether the right rear taillight of Miss Reed's Lexus was broken or damaged during the contact with Mr. O'Keefe's car at around 5:07 a.m. on January 29, 2022.
That impact did not break or crack that taillight.
Is that your opinion?
That's my opinion.
Is that to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty?
That's to a high degree of engineering certainty.
Still high, but not reasonable. Okay, how do you then account for John's car moving?
You mentioned there were 3 areas of study, and we've been through 2.
Correct.
Could you tell us what you focused on your 3rd area of study regarding this case?
So the 3rd area of study, I'm now focusing in on the injuries, the at-scene physical evidence, taillight fragments, broken glass, things of that nature.
Okay, and when you conducted your studies and reached conclusions, did you, in your PowerPoint, provide slides to help explain your process and inevitably your conclusions?
Yes, sir.
If you can take us through the 3rd section of your efforts regarding this case, specifically your efforts to identify the different pieces of evidence and your conclusions about a collision in this case.
Absolutely.
They're going fast. We
Slide
might get
104.
to cross today. We might get to.
So this is a...
Is this 105, Dr. Welcher?
I'm sorry? 105. Yes, sorry. Slide 105. This is a picture of Mr. O'Keefe's right arm, forearm, hand, and wrist. In anatomy, your arm is defined from your shoulder to your elbow, and then from your elbow to your wrist is your forearm, and then this is your hand. So technically, when you say arm, it really means from your elbow to your shoulder. Most people call this whole thing arm. It's actually the upper extremity. Arm is from shoulder to elbow, elbow to wrist is forearm and hand. So you can see I wrote arm and forearm. So arm, elbow to shoulder, elbow to wrist is forearm. So looking at the injuries to Mr. O'Keefe's arm, forearm, as well as his hand. So this is me. I'm actually 6 feet, half an inch tall. What you see in the upper right is the coroner's examination report for Mr. O'Keefe. He's 73 inches tall. That's 6 feet, 1 inch tall. At this time, I was 220 pounds. Mr. O'Keefe, at the time of this incident, was 216 pounds. So I took measurements of myself. I'm actually wearing the same make and size shoes as Mr. O'Keefe, the same brand of jeans as Mr. O'Keefe, the same brand and size shirt of Mr. O'Keefe.
Are you kidding me?
You see the Lexus in the background. We have matched
Where did the car
the
bite
height
you, sir?
to the
Where did the car
Lexus.
bite you?
What I'm showing here is both my height, and then keep in mind where the height of this wing is relative to my right eye. So now I'm wearing, in addition to the same shirt and shoes, same type of sweatshirt, and actually the same
the
kind of
goat
baseball
scream.
hat.
We need a goat.
We tried to determine the exact glass from the Waterfall Grill. Found out they were getting different ones at different times, but I ordered my glass from the same distributor that Waterfall Grill ordered their glasses from. So you can see in my right hand here, I have a glass. Here's a glass. It looks similar. It's from the same location.
I want to see his
And
pirouettes.
then in the lower right photograph, what I've done is I've rolled up my sleeve, taken the sweatshirt off, and I'm going to look at how this contact pattern lines up. So the first set of slides, I'm simply standing next to the Lexus. We know we have a broken taillight. We know how scratches on Mr. O'Keefe's arm. I'm seeing how those may or may not relate to the height and position of the taillight.
Dr. Welcher, if you could back up one slide, I have a question for you. In the middle photograph, at the top of the Lexus, there's like a rim. What do you call that?
I call it a wind wing. I mean, it could be a wing.
Did I just say John wore it better? this guy dressing up
Air
like
dam
John
would be
is
another.
crazy.
Okay, so I then set about to do a little bit of testing with Lexus. The first test you're going to see is me just walking backwards, or actually sideways, into the Lexus. What I've done is I've painted the Lexus right rear tail light with what's called grease paint. Kind of sort of like paint, but it doesn't dry. And then I have backed up sideways, side shuffled into the Lexus with my arm out, see what the damage pattern looks like, or basically where someone of Mr. O'Keefe's height's arm would contact the rear tail light. So then what you see is I've shown the photographs again. I show the paint transfer onto my arm. The yellow grease paint on my hand was to show where my hand would hit the taillight. And so just kind of me walking slowly sideways into it, the approximate location of the taillight, and I'll line it up with the broken taillight in a second, lines up with the approximate location of the lacerations on Mr. O'Keefe's arm.
Dr. Welch, let me ask you a question. When you're engaging in these demonstrations, are you attempting to try to show exactly how Mr. O'Keefe was struck?
No. So we don't know exactly how he was struck. And pedestrian impacts are extremely sensitive to exact angles. And so where exactly your foot is, whether your foot's off the ground, can have an effect on where you end up after that. We just don't have enough information in this case to determine all that information. We know the taillight was broken. We know the glass was broken. We know we have damage to the rear of the Lexus. We know we have lacerations to Mr. O'Keefe's arm. So I'm trying to see if there's any correlation between all those.
Well, can body posture on a clip or a side slight collision change the trajectory or the injury?
Of course.
Can the way somebody moves or reacts before impact change it?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
What are other things that can change the trajectory of the person and the injuries?
So for example, if you get hit and knocked off balance, or clipped and knocked off balance, you can take additional steps. That'll affect how far your body travels. If you have one foot on the ground versus the other foot on the ground, affects how the body rotates. If your arm is at 90 degrees or 85 degrees, will affect the kinematics. We attempted to model different possibilities, and we're getting results that were all over the map. Small changes in the pedestrian position give you huge change in the output. And so from the tech stream data, we don't know exactly when in the tech stream data he was hit. So we don't even know the exact impact speed. In most pedestrian reconstructions, you typically have a point where the impact occurred, like where the person was, like in the crosswalk, for example, and they get hit and their tire leaves a rubber scrub. That's called the area of impact or point of impact. You then can look at how far they were thrown, and using some laws of physics, calculate how fast the car had to be going. Well, we don't have that in this case. We don't know exactly where Mr. O'Keefe was on the roadway when this happened. Sorry, I'm about to go to the next slide. Oh.
Without
my problem
having
is the yellow paint.
An exact point
I have
of
a
impact,
problem with the yellow
or an
paint.
exact speed, or an exact body position, are you able to specifically replicate the actual collision and the way Mr. O'Keefe's body would move?
Exactly replicate? No. And again, in terms of how he would move, again, we don't know where he started. So in terms of how he moved, that's a function of where he started. We don't know if when he was clipped, he took an additional step before falling backwards. So that will change how far you are off the roadway. So the impact, which you'll see in a second, even at 2 miles an hour, will induce rotation of the body. So depending on the higher speed, the more rotation.
The fact that it only put yellow paint on a small
slide
part of the
111,
hand.
this is simply showing sideways how this lines up with the location of the lacerations on Mr. O'Keefe's arm. Here's the post-contact scuffing on the taillight. Here's a picture of Miss Reed's vehicle on the right-hand side. So now I said, okay, you know, that was me walking into the car. Let's have the car drive into me. I did this at very low speeds. And you'll see, and we'll throw this from two different angles.
You took one for the
That's
team.
me showing I'm doing test 2. This is from a camera that we have pointing down at it. This is the speed. You'll see it's only about a 2-mile-an-hour impact. But even a 2-mile-an-hour impact redirects me back and causes me to rotate and take a step.
Oops. We're filming the part that he was supposed to cut out. Okay, this time I'm going to turn as I step back. Okay, can you do it again? Okay, here we go. Yep, I'm ready to take a step back. I've braced myself.
Yes.
Okay, this guy is doing everything he can to discredit himself. This is not science here. He's trying to fit the injuries to the crime scene. He's trying to fit it. The fact that he's painted just on the back of his hand a little bit of yellow, that's the only place there's going to be an injury, because that's the only place there's yellow. So that's, well, here's where his hand struck the car. Why not his wrist? Why not his forearm? Why not somewhere else? Why don't we see the transfer from other areas other than just that area? He's literally trying to say, and see, everything matches. Everything matches. Oh, it's bad. You know, I'm going to have to go home, throw this on the replay machine, and throw it down, slow it down frame by frame to see if he actually starts prepping for his movement, for his pirouette, before the car actually comes in contact with him. The fact that he stood the way he did with one foot forward in front of the other, this should be thrown out, honestly. The problem is they're trying to make it look like this is how it happened, when by his own testimony, he has no clue. He does not know. He's like, it could have happened so many, a slight difference with a foot being off the ground could change everything. This is a bad example. And coming in as an expert, it gives it extra weight. This is not evidence. This is not like a traffic camera that caught the moment of impact, right? He's trying to theorize how he got his injuries. The problem is he started with the injuries, and he's positioning himself to say, can I make this work? Can I fit these injuries into this area? And he has no idea. He doesn't even know where John was when it started. So, you want to say something? Oh, hang on. Pretty much just straight there.
The option has been removed.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So how do you think you should do it?
I don't think this expert, I think they should work with physics, right? He says, we use physics to figure some stuff out. I need to know the physics. I want to hear, we used his weight. We used the speed of the car that we know, that was known, and we calculated how far a body could be thrown. I want to hear about the math side of it. Instead of him trying to stand there, it's like, okay, now I'm going to stand with one leg walking, like posed like an Egyptian, one leg forward like a hieroglyphic, right? One leg forward, one leg back, ready, set, and now, of course, now I pivot on my pivot foot, and it spins me. I just don't see this as scientific. Now, at the same time, I would have wanted to do these same experiments just to see if it can be done. But I would not have presented that in court as an expert saying this is how it happened or how it most likely happened to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty, or a high degree even. Yeah, he's done the walk like an Egyptian pose to try to say this is how it worked. Saying he ordered the cups from the same place. I'm wearing the same shirt. He's dressed up like the victim so that in the minds of the jurors, they can see this is how it happened. Why? All that is just, it is not necessary for this at all. 0, 0, 0. Then I did this at slow speed so I wouldn't get injured, but you can see clearly how this would cause those same injuries. This is bad. This is bad science. It shows sign of a desperate prosecutor who's trying to fit these pieces together. I think they had a strong case without this. This weakens their case. If he tells me he shaved his head so he looked just like John before this happens, I'm going to lose it. Yeah, where's Chloe? What dog did you use for Chloe in this recreation? No. You guys can't hear the phone giving directions, right? I've got it muted. Phone should just be going to you. Sharkey says, Recovery Addict, that's an auto liability adjuster. I do accident reconstruction with Hot Wheels to help me, but I don't use them in my arguments. Your Honor, if I may, I brought my Hot Wheels collection to help the jury understand. Oh, that would be epic. What makes the prosecution's strong case? It's circumstantial, but the timelines make it strong. Timeline's very strong. You've got taillight at the scene before Mr. Proctor can get from where the car was at the Sally Port to the scene, found by other people. You've got the time of John's phone matching up with the time on the car, backing up and leaving. You've got the thermometer temperature on the phone constantly losing temperature until it was found, and no movement after that. Those are very strong. That's helpful. But if you have to do this, sorry, a little hiccup for the overpass there. I think this is I think the judge knows this is crazy. Leslie objected and approached, and he's like, Your Honor, this is a circus. This is the clown. These are not my monkeys. This doesn't belong in court. This is bizarre. I think there's science they could bring. This particular witness has the background and the knowledge to be able to testify to science. And I think that would be so much stronger than, here, I used some face paint and dressed up like the victim just to show you how it could have happened. Did he do this in the first trial? No. Remember, in the first trial, they would barely even admit that the car moved. There was contact with when she backed out. Was it Proctor who said, nope, didn't see it move? Okay, let's see what the judge says. Mr. Yanetti's like, calm down, Leslie, calm down. Don't eat him alive.
What slide is this? I think I just can't see it. What slide is this?
114.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One moment, Dr. Welcher. When you were showing us this video, you walked to the side of the passenger side of the car, didn't you?
I did.
And why did you do that?
I was discussing.
You know, when you're trying imitate or give a demonstration of what you believe Mr. O'Keefe moved.
Oh, no. This speed's just 2 miles an hour. I was having a discussion with the driver about what we needed to do to conduct the test.
So when you walked up to the passenger side, it wasn't to replicate a study or a movement or giving a
No, that walking had nothing to do with this case except for me instructing the driver what to do.
Thank you for that clarification.
Sorry about that.
No apology necessary. Could you go back to the beginning when you were explaining this so we can go through it?
So this is the dynamic test 2. So again, this is the view from behind. Just to avoid the confusion, I will start it here.
Which speed is the car traveling?
You can see it.
You can see it. You tell me.
About 2 miles an hour.
Excuse me, Your Honor, that is the objection that we spoke about.
Oh, okay. All right, so that's noted, Mr. Larson.
So similar to the other test, this is the post-contact image of the transfers onto my arm. Actually, the yellow paint, you can see from my hand is here. This is from the arm and forearm. Here's the paint transfer pattern.
And that slide number,
I'm
Dr.
sorry,
Welcher?
I'm terrible with that.
That's
Slide
okay.
116 now. That was 115.
Thank you.
Slide 116. What I've done is I've taken these yellow lines to show the extension of the components on the rear of the exemplar Lexus. Then I've done this extension of those same components on the rear of Miss Reed's Lexus and shown how the approximate location of the fractures in the taillight match up with the approximate location of the contact of the arm onto the taillight.
Dr. Welcher, do you have any indication of how Mr. O'Keefe's arm was bent, what angle it was bent at?
Not exactly, but for these to be taillight shard fragments, they would need to be in the area of the taillight, but it could be further up. We know from the police photographs that there was a damage to the rear body panel in the area I'm searching here. So it's possible his arm was a little higher up and the glass hit the rear.
In the bottom right.
Excuse me, Your Honor, objection.
I will strike that last.
Purpose of the circle is for what, Dr. Welcher?
To show, in this case, primarily the location of the lacerations up on the arm, the upper part of the arm, and that they match up with the locations of at least the one remaining shard, Miss Reed's Lexus.
Looking at the picture of the Lexus, bottom right, middle, are there any marks on the Lexus itself that you took note of?
Yes, it's on the next slide. Actually, it's 2 slides. So there, again, this is the evidence marker. There was a horizontal scuff. We know Mr. O'Keefe had blue jean type pants on. There's a scuff in the area that would approximately correspond to hip level for Mr. O'Keefe.
Next slide, please.
Yes, ma'am. 118.
Thank you.
Did you describe what you saw on the bottom right-hand corner photo as well?
I believe, yes, I did. That's the scuff that lines up with the approximate height of Mr. O'Keefe's right hip.
So these are rivets from his blue jeans? Is that what they're saying?
So then I included previous image that you've seen, slide 119, with the reconstructed photograph of the rear taillight, showing where some of the fragments are. You can see where those fragments are relative to the curvature of the tail light. They'd be in the area somewhat centered within the region of the two yellow lines on slide 119.
Is there anything about the photograph in the top right-hand corner that's important? If so, could you zoom in and show us?
So again, it's showing that this is when it's, I believe, in the Sally Port at the police station. Scuff on the right rear body panel.
Did you see any similar scuffs in the middle back of the car?
Sustained.
Did you see anything notable as far as damage to the middle back of this Lexus?
The middle?
Yes.
Like back where the doors are?
But with the middle of the back of the car, did you see any similar damage to the middle?
There were scuff marks that ran along the bumper.
Okay, continue, please.
So this is just showing his jacket he was wearing, that the puncture marks coincide to the marks on his arm. This is from the autopsy report. A couple things. It notes a 0.5 centimeter abrasion on his right lateral knee. He's got a laceration right eyelid that corresponds to the height of that rear wind wing on the back of the Lexus.
No, I'm going to object.
Sustained.
Thank you.
How tall was Mr. O'Keefe?
73 inches tall, 6'1".
And how high was that wing from the ground on the back of the Lexus?
It was about
Now he doesn't know.
It's about 5 feet 11 inches, maybe 5 feet 10 and a half.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Did you notice anything about Mr. O'Keefe's right knee?
I noticed there was a 0.5 centimeter abrasion on the right lateral knee.
Did you note how high from his foot that bruise was on his knee?
We don't know the exact length of his knee. The abrasion appears to be right here at knee level. If you go back and look at where my knee is, that would be at the approximate level of the bumper.
Could you focus in on the bumper to show it relative to the height of your knee?
Sure. Oops. So my knee is approximately right here. This is where the bumper is. So the side of Mr. O'Keefe's knee will be in this general area.
Okay, thank you. Sir, do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty about the lacerations on Mr. O'Keefe's right arm and forearm regarding its orientation relative to the broken taillight on the defendant's Lexus?
Yes. Your Honor, may I read my report, my opinion?
Okay.
The location and orientation of the laceration on John O'Keefe's right forearm and arm are consistent with the geometry and orientation of the right taillight of the Reed 2021 Lexus LX 570.
After considering these three different subjects that we discussed, the tech stream data, analyzing the touching between the defendant's Lexus and Mr. O'Keefe's car, and then your demonstrations regarding the injury to Mr. O'Keefe's right arm, did you consider further evidence in reaching any conclusions as an accident reconstructionist and a biomechanical engineer?
Yes, I did.
Could you turn us to slide 124, please?
So this is some of the location of the physical evidence. red plastic, clear plastic. There, his point of rest was indicated to be 7 feet off the roadway. There was a sneaker that was found near the curb. There were various fragments of taillight found in the snow on the morning of the incident, as to the afternoon of the incident.
Could you zoom in on those photos so that we can see the dates?
The date?
Yes.
Oh, sure. So January 29th at 5:46 p.m. This one's at 5:52. One's at 5:59. This one down here is at 5:46. So there were various fragments of the taillight that were ultimately pieced back together and determined to be from Miss Reed's right rear taillight. Additional evidence was found. This is taken on the afternoon of the accident, again, around 5:50 p.m.
Could you zoom in, please, for us?
Sure. So what you see here is was later identified as Mr. O'Keefe's right shoe.
And this slide number, Dr. Welcher?
Yes, ma'am, 127.
Could you show us the time and date, please?
You sure it was the right shoe?
January 29th at 5:50 p.m. So a series of photographs. Again, you can see on the right-hand photograph that this is the roadway. This is the curb. The grass will be up towards the top of the right image on slide 127. The shoe is found, up against, in the roadway, up against the edge of the curb. Baseball hat. Again, acquired a same baseball hat. Baseball hat was also found in the snow. You can see.
I want you, before you move ahead, the baseball hat, could you give us a close-up view and also the date and time?
So that's where it's buried in the snow. These were taken on February 3rd. There was also red liquid identified, I believe they indicated to be blood, in the snow as well.
And could you give it?
So I'm going to sustain that objection and strike the last part of
I
it. So we
understand.
don't need to come to sci-fi, right?
Just describe the color of what you saw rather than what it was.
There was red coloration in the snow.
And could you give us that date if it's different than February 3rd?
I thought that was February 3rd as well.
Is there a date on the photograph to the left?
I don't see one.
Okay.
It was not February
Do you
3rd.
know if those photos were taken by the Canton Police Department?
Sustain.
Do you know when exactly those photos were taken?
I don't, except I have them dated as February 3rd. But I think that may just be the baseball hat photos.
Okay.
He doubles down.
Then we have photos of a broken glass. Surrounded by red marks in the snow.
Continue, please.
This, by the way, is the flag.
And that slide number, please, Dr.
Yes, ma'am, 129.
Thank you.
130.
Can you enlarge that and explain to us what that is?
Sure. So at the bottom, it indicates where it's from. So this was from a presentation I gave looking at pedestrian injury biomechanics back in 2005. And what it's showing is where what are the most common injuries in pedestrian impacts. So what it shows is head injuries are the most common injury in pedestrian impacts. So on the right-hand side, it's all injuries. You can see a study, the highest prevalence or highest or most common injury was head injuries. In those that sustained severe life-threatening injuries, again, the highest was also head injuries. So head injuries are very commonly associated with pedestrian impacts. This is anatomical drawings just to help you understand the anatomy. The middle section here is from Mr. O'Keefe's autopsy report. The lower right diagram, the green line represents the fracture lines, predominantly here, at least in the base of the skull. So in the biomechanical and forensics just means the legal related, there's something called hat brim line or hat line analysis. And what it is it's looking at where the hat line, you can imagine, is where the brim of a hat would be. And what it is, it's literature that's looking at where head injuries from falls commonly occur.
I'll strike. I'm going to strike. I'm going to strike. Yes. Yes.
This witness has spread himself too thin, and I think he's going to be
Slide 130.
subject
No,
to
that was
vigorous
132. I moved it.
cross.
You said take it out.
One more request is to agree to not take that into consideration.
So jurors, when I strike something, that means don't pay any attention.
Oh, now they get told that. When I strike something, that means don't pay any attention to it.
So, Your Honor, I need to.
Day
go
20 of
past that
trial,
slide.
jurors learn to this.
This is the next slide.
Okay, if you can continue.
Sure. So I provided peer-reviewed scientific literature that looked at a metric where they were publishing research trying to delineate falls versus blows or assaults. And so this metric is in that scientific literature. They looked at a total of 400 different events, 235 falls, 165 assaults. And so you can see where it says mandible. So mandible is your lower jaw.
Can you enlarge that a little bit, please?
Pardon the interruption. I'm moving to strike.
Yeah, let's take that slide down and I'm going to see you inside.
All right. This is funny. Sorry, we have a big overpass coming up. We keep losing stuff. The slides are showing autopsy photos. Give it just a minute to catch up here. They're showing autopsy photos, and the judge is like, "Take those down. Take those down." I think some of the photos may not have admitted, so he had them in the discovery packet, but they might not be the photos that the jury has seen from the autopsy. If that's the case, we have a problem. So we might not be able to go through this slide presentation. But this witness, this expert witness, first of all, he's got great skills, and his testimony about a bunch of stuff is strong. He spread himself pretty thin, and when he went into the cosplay area, that was a bad look for him. That is his that's his bachelor's degree in progress moment, doing the cosplay of John and makeup and everything else. That was terrible. What state are we in? We're in North Carolina. We're in our home state. So we're making some good time. Hopefully, as soon as we get out of the city area, these underpass, overpass situation will be better. Are you suggesting you're ahead of schedule?
looks like we're going to be home in about, let's see, about 2 hours and 40 minutes. So 2 hours, 45 minutes, we should be home.
We ended drive early.
That means court will end before we get home. Hope you treat Mrs. R.A. to something nice. We're doing all the driving. Don, I think I'll have to.
I got a massage last night. I'm good.
There's that. We better warn the big RAs. We do need to call them and tell them to start cleaning the house because we're coming home.
Yeah, we do actually, because they're supposed to have dinner for us. And they need to know when we're getting there.
I may once I get home, depending on the time tonight, I may go back and tear apart some of
Mr.
it.
Leslie,
You know.
Mr. Brennan is going to do this in open. Dr. Welcher for a minute. Okay,
Yeah.
is there any objection?
I have no objection. Are we on the tree?
Yes.
Okay, they're now talking to him about the slides, his presentation in open court.
Yes. Absolutely.
No talking, court still in session.
Everyone be quiet.
Thank you. And I'm going to now use 10 minutes to see if there's any others in the report to be waiting.
So it starts on page 124. Is that right, Mr. Brennan and Mr. Leslie?
I don't have the whole one in front of me yet.
Dr. Welcher, is that where it starts?
That appears to be, Your Honor. Yes. 124.
Looks like some of it is getting skipped.
Starting out 123, I have to start.
I actually have 122 is already redacted, but I have it at 123 as well.
All right, I don't have it on 123.
123 was a blank slide.
Okay, approach, Your Honor.
Yes.
Slide 123 was
I had
intentionally
123
left
blank
blank.
slide.
Okay. So
So from
124.
triple M, you do not have that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any PowerPoint that has over 100 pages.
24 through 138,
Doing
is
it.
that accurate, counsel?
Checking out.
Chrissy, do you need a break?
Chrissy, do you need a break? Can you please take one?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So if you could do that for us,
We're gonna take a break.
Dr. Welcher.
I'm doing it
we
right now.
can- We can bring the jurors back.
Oh,
Your Honor, if we could just.
I'm going to count that as a sigh.
Okay. Sure. Sure.
That brings us up to 186 on the sigh counter. Okay, when I get home, first thing we're going to do, we're going to tear into this. Well, we're going to unload the car, but then we're going to tear into those videos with the paint on the arm. We're going to go frame by frame because I'm pretty sure they're worse than we thought. I think he staged it. I want to see movement.
Not on the record.
That was a big sigh as well. We're counting that one. 2 from the judge within the space of a minute. Okay, I don't know exactly what happened, but there's been an objection to something about the PowerPoint. And
I have objections
you have objections?
about the PowerPoint.
You can't see them because you're driving.
It's too long.
It's very long. We're now skipping way ahead to page 124. We're bringing the jury back. I think we've skipped some of the autopsy photos. There might even be a whole section of his testimony that we just jumped over.
Sure, and it won't be on the record, right?
Yes.
Do you
DMB
do we
says
need it on the record?
yes, we do.
No, thank you.
Okay.
I think he purposely moved in a way to maximize effects for his narrative. I agree. John's mom left the courtroom. It's sort of like a break right now, even though we're still on the record. Mr. Alessi goes and talks to the witness really quickly.
That opportunity.
Thanks the judge for whatever grace and space she allowed.
One slide. I'm sorry.
Witness is having to redact a bunch of slides. Showed autopsy photos not introduced as evidence. Oops.
Right, but the ones. All right, so.
So I can go back and show them.
Yes.
I don't want to offend the court.
Okay. So are we starting on slide 132?
132, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you.
How you doing, Mrs. R.A.? Good. Got a thumbs up. She's good. She's living life in the fast lane right now. How was that not caught before? I don't know. It's probably because when it comes to the autopsy photos, the actual photos of which ones they wanted to introduce may have been not decided until the day of court, until they went to submit them and say, well, we're going to take 10, 11, and 12. We're going to skip 15 because that's duplicative. We're skipping 14. It's duplicative. They want to choose them there. Fork this in the slow lane. It is. I can't wait for Alessi to have it, this witness.
Inquire if Dr. Welch's PowerPoint is ready on the screen.
It looks like it's up. Is it ready, Dr. Walton?
You got me scared when you asked me that. I need to double check.
Dr. Welcher lets out a sigh.
Yes, I believe I redacted everything and we are on slide 132. Thank you. And by the way,
It appears that way to me, Mr. Leslie.
the battery died on this.
Okay, thank you.
Whoever in charge of it. I mean, I brought my own, fortunately, but
The laser pointer died.
actually, I can't find my.
Ms. Gilman has one.
That's another sigh from the judge. That's 3 today. She's back on schedule.
Oh, backup. All right. Equally bad. These laser pointers do not work on those monitors.
Yeah, we've had that.
Well, Amber, he did take one class that the medical students take. What is it? Anatomy 101. So he's pretty much like a medical doctor after doing that. So he dove right into that area. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He spread himself too thin. He's reconstructing the accident. He's digging into the data. He's doing a lot of different things that will all be exposed on cross-examination, where he's going to have to be challenged on all those fronts. And the more he testifies about, the more potential there is for mistakes to be made and flaws to be illuminated. He took Anatomy for Dummies. Still currently pursuing. He did mess up the date on the pictures of blood in the snow. He said that happened on February 3rd, and he sort of doubled down on it, missing the cue from Mr. Brennan that it was actually taken at a different time by Canton Police the day that John was found. He missed that one completely, so now he's sort of doubled down and owns that one.
Dr. Welcher, if you could return to slide 132. Actually, 133, Dr. Welcher.
Is that me or? $132 or $133?
133, please. The next one after that.
So we did skip over 132.
We skipped over that one as well. Going.
He wants to go back to 132.
If you can enlarge that just a little bit for us.
Sure.
Now, you mentioned that there was studies that talked about guiding the difference between potential injuries.
Correct.
Okay, explain that.
Sure. So I gave 3 papers and someone's dissertation on this issue. They were creating a analysis methodology to differentiate whether the nature and pattern of injuries are more consistent with a fall or more consistent with an assault, or they're calling it blows.
So this is pure rebuttal testimony.
Sure. So this is their flow chart in terms of their assessment. So it starts at the very top. You can see they analyze a total of 400 events, 235 falls, 165 blows or assaults. So what you do is you ask yourself on the first set of arrows, you look at the mandible, the jaw. And MRS, as you can see at the bottom down here, refers to a simple fracture or multiple fractures. A is no fracture. Mr. O'Keefe has no mandible fracture. So that means we go down this row. It then looks at all facial fractures. So these are the bones that constitute the face. So if you have a facial fracture, you go to your left. If you have no facial fracture, you go to the right. So if you have some event, no mandible fracture, no facial fracture, what they've indicated that is predominantly associated with falls and not assaults.
Thank you.
What blast?
In addition, did you do any further study on the force of a person falling back and landing on their head?
Oops, I did. So what I did was I did what are called drop tests. I took an anthropomorphic test device, ATD, which is just a fancy name for a crash test dummy, and dropped it backwards onto a hard surface to look at what happens if you were to say fall backwards and hit your head onto a hard surface.
He threw his phone in his hotel room.
On this particular photograph of Mr. O'Keefe in the upper left, there's noted to be abrasions above the fracture line in the area. You can't see that at all. You can see noted to be abrasions right here. Your Honor, I brought a hat. That was the one I used in my testing. May I put it on and demonstrate something?
Oh, now we're doing full cosplay. He's getting dressed.
Are you objecting? That's sustained. No, you can't.
Okay.
No, you cannot wear the hat.
I will show you the dummy test I did. Watch when the shoulders hit the ground, then the head hits the ground. It creates kind of an arc path that will drag and slide objects up the head. So if you have something such as a baseball hat, it'll cause it to drag across the scalp, dragging it up to a similar location to where these abrasions are. So here's the testing. Again, this is a crash test dummies you see on television. This is myself. Me giving me similar instructions, telling them what we're going to do. I said, and watch. Shoulders come in, then the head contacts the ground. What you see is if you fall backwards and land on a very hard surface or hard surface, you'll get extremely high loads on the head. If you compare that to data in the science.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Please explain what the chart is before you explain.
Oh, sure. This chart up here?
Nope, the next page.
Right.
You can enlarge it, tell us what it is before you get into the details.
Absolutely. So this is actually kind of a famous study that was published, one of the first studies looking at head fracture or skull fracture tolerances. So what you see, the portion at the back of your skull is called the occiput bone. So that bone, if you put your hand on the back of your head, is your occiput. So we're looking at occiput impacts. And what you can see is that when they took cadaver skulls and dropped them from as low as 40 inches onto a hard surface, they were getting linear fractures. And you can see even at 40 inches, there is called a stellate fracture. Stellate means star-like. You get a fracture that goes out like a star. So even at a 40-inch drop height, you have sufficient force when landing on a hard surface to cause skull fracture and a level 3 type skull fracture. So Mr. O'Keefe, again, is 73 inches tall. His occiput is about 4.6 inches down from the top of his skull. That means it would fall a total of about 73 minus 5 would be 68. So just under 6 feet. So 72, 4 inches under, so 5 foot, 8 inches is the fall height. What is data showing that even at a fall height as low as 40 inches onto a hard surface, you can get fairly severe skull fractures.
Thank you. Dr. Welcher, regarding your third part of your analysis, did you come to a conclusion to a reasonable degree of engineering uncertainty whether or not the defendant's Lexus collided with Mr. John O'Keefe on the evening of January 29, 2022, around 12:32 a.m.?
Yes.
Before you give me your opinion, I'd like you to share with the jury what that opinion is based on.
Sure. So it's based on the 130 slides you've seen, based on my personal inspection of the Lexus, the correlation of the text stream data with the infotainment data, as well as Mr. O'Keefe's cell phone data. It's looking at, I guess, where the taillight wasn't broken. It's looking at the physical evidence at the scene in terms of taillight fragments, glass fragments, red color in the snow. We have the cell phone data.
It's based on red color in
the
the snow.
position of the arm lacerations, the air temperature at the time indicative of sufficient to freeze, the location of the fracture on the back of his head relative to the scientific literature, my testing of forces available falling onto a hard surface, published science on the fracture forces associated with falls. And, I'm sorry, I'm reading from my report. I'm reading from my report.
Can you answer without reading from your report?
Probably. It's more complete if I read my report.
Any objection, Mr. Leslie?
I do on this question, reading from a report to this question. So I'm going to go through some data.
So, try not to read, don't read from your report.
Okay, doke.
Okie doke.
Okay, Dr. Welcher, let me ask you again. Based on your analysis, data available, reviews, study, based on the fact that you are an accident reconstructionist and a biomedical engineer.
Here comes the leading.
Have you reached an opinion to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty whether the defendant's Lexus struck Mr. John O'Keefe on January 29, 2022, around 12:32 a.m.?
Yes.
And could you share the bases of your opinion before I ask you your ultimate opinion?
Sure. So again, you've seen my slide presentation. I've inspected the Lexus. I've looked at where it wasn't damaged. I've inspected the taillight. I got an exemplar Lexus. I ran lower speed contacts to verify that the injury pattern and location on the arm is consistent with the height and orientation of the taillight. I have looked at fracture tolerance data for falling backwards onto hard surfaces. I've looked at the metrics of where his injuries were and what injuries he didn't sustain. I've looked at the cell phone data, and then I've looked at Miss Reed's interviews as well.
Based on all the evidence you considered, could you share with the jury what your opinion is to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty about whether the defendant's Lexus struck Mr. O'Keefe on January 29, 2022, around 12:32 a.m.?
I can answer. Yes, based on the totality of the evidence, DNA, everything I've talked about, that is consistent with that happening with a reasonable degree of scientific certainty. What happened?
Objection moved to strike. We're going to strike that. The judge says she knows that was wrong. And we get sidebar number, I don't know, 7 of the day. Did they say DNA? Did he say DNA in there? Why did he say DNA? Because he sure didn't say anything about where he based. I heard nothing in his testimony about DNA. The only DNA we had matched was the hair DNA, which could be multiple people, all known to have traveled in that vehicle. So here we are at sidebar once again. How bad is it? This should be, hang on, we got to overpass. 1 second. All right, we're back, I think. This should be the final ringing of the gong for the prosecution. Okay, this is their crown, their shining star witness about to testify that all this happened, that has put all the pieces together. He's giving his final triumphant to a degree of professional engineering certainty. Yes, this happened at this time, exactly as I told you, and it got struck from the record. It was objected to. The judge sustained it. It's been struck from the record. They're going to have to try again, and they'll get something in. Okay, they will get something in. But he basically whiffed when they needed a home run. They needed a grand slam. This was like the bases loaded, full count. They need a grand slam, and he whiffed. So now they have to do it again. Because he tried to get too much in. He tried to bite off more you can chew. Let's see what the judge rules on this one just a little bit. He had a T-ball and he missed it. I think it was the DNA. He said he based this based on DNA. And it might have been scientific, but I think both of those might be objectionable. They're wrapping up today, collecting passes. It's only 2:46. We could go for another hour of cross. 3:46. Holy cow! My computer is not updated yet. Okay, so we are just about done. No cross today, I think. This was spicy. Mr. Brennan would have done a lot better. Just have a measured approach instead of trying to include everything. And you know they worked on this because you're like, before you tell me your final conclusion, before you do that mic drop moment where you say that's that guy, he did it right there, he's guilty. Before you give us that, tell us everything you based it on. and he tried to say everything that was in the case. He tried to include Karen Reed's statements and everything else. That's a cool tower. Sorry, squirrel moment. Oh, man. All right. It's been a good day. It's been a good day. It's been a little slow on some of the testimony, but I see a medical doctor. Nobody took one class with medical students. Anatomy 101.
He said after that, he's like, I realized that wasn't enough, so I went and I took some more classes, and I was the only one who wasn't a doctor in those classes.
That was the same class. That was the Anatomy 101 class medical students take.
So it was cool.
He testified about so many things. How did they explain the pig DNA? I don't think we've heard pig DNA yet. That'll come in on defense, I think. I don't think the state brought that in. I took the same class as some girl, but I'm a real nurse. He's an expert because he stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Hey, we're experts.
We're experts too. Mrs. RA is an expert driver. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think Paul would have been better than this witness? Paul with the I don't know what physics is testimony. He took a gross anatomy, or maybe he watched an episode. I forget which one it was, but that's his medical experience. Okay, you got some Lady Frontier says, so if he gets knocked off his feet from the impact, how does the top of the car hit his eye area as he would be turned away from it when he was hit so it would not make contact? I cannot believe he said we went out, we tried to get the same cups the waterfall has, but guess what? They don't have the same cups, so we just bought a cup from the same supplier that they use. We just bought a cup from the same supplier they use because that's close enough. Like, all right. And then he's dressed up in John's clothes. I mean, I don't know how offensive that is to the family, but dressed up in John's clothes and then tries to reenact how he envisions the accident happened. Literally putting his arm in a position where he could try to match up the injury to the taillight. Not starting with the car and seeing how it can do that, or just like, let's see if we can contort John's body, which didn't take much. It was just bending the arm position and turn sideways and walking like an Egyptian. But setting that up to replicate this and then painting the hand. Why didn't he paint his whole arm? Okay, why not do this two ways? Paint your whole arm. Let's see where your arm hits the car. Paint the car. Let's see where the car hits your arm. Instead, he's like, we're gonna have contact here and there. So I'm gonna paint right here on the taillight. I'm gonna paint right here on the hand, and then boom. See, mission accomplished. That is not science. That is not science. It's setting up the test to give you the results you're looking for. Oh. There's an inherent bias in that experiment that is so offensive and I'm one I've been leaning towards the Commonwealth on a lot of these issues for a long time, and I just don't think. Who just laughed? Who just laughed?
about this case, please disregard it and let us know, and please be very careful with your social media. So we'll see you tomorrow. Oh, I'm sorry, we're starting an hour late tomorrow, is that what this is?
Yes.
Oh, an hour late tomorrow. I get to sleep in. Yay.
Start at 10 o'clock tomorrow. So we'll see you at 10 o'clock.
So instead of getting the big finish at the close of testimony, Mr. Brennan gets the star witness's final statement, his scientific degree of certainty statement, struck from the record, and then the jury is dismissed. You cannot make this stuff up. I let's see. They are a little bit early.
It's okay. I mean, I came in early.
Let's see if they have anything else to talk about. All right, the witness is done. People are getting up. It looks like we're done. Well, sit down again. Here we go. Get some argument, maybe.
All right.
Dr. Welcher.
Dr. Welcher can step down. I know he has to come back and have his
So
equipment.
just leave everything here.
And then you'll come back in 5 minutes.
Roger.
All right. Yes, please.
Out goes Dr.
All
Welcher
right,
as we have a
so
talk
Mr.
about
Lisey, I will
him.
hear you as to your objection.
Mr. Lessy's going to be heated, hot under the collar on this one for sure.
Thank you, Your Honor. Would you like me to go to the podium or stand?
Right there's fine, and let's try and wrap this all up by
It's got
4
to be
because
loud,
I've already
Leslie.
heard you.
Really
It's
loud. I
over.
can't turn you up any louder.
That means both of you I'll hear from within the next 5 minutes. Go ahead, Mr. Lessie.
Thank you, Your Honor. The point number one is the question of whether, based on a reasonable degree of scientific or engineering certainty, he has an opinion whether a collision occurred. I'm going to give a dramatic and accurate example that happens in courts all the time equivalent. So, by analogy, if the issue is whether or not a defendant has stabbed an individual and caused a certain event, that is the ultimate question for the jury. That question is never permissible in a trial. By analogy, this is the exact analogous situation. The question of whether there was a collision is the ultimate question for the jury. That is why we are having this trial. The defense strongly asserts there was no collision, and there is substantial evidence to that. We are going to cross-examine Dr. Welcher. We are going to put in our own strong case to demonstrate no collision occurred. That's no surprise. It was in our opening statement. This witness cannot, by precedent for years, opine is going to the jury. I accept, subject to evidentiary issues, the two questions that a biomechanist always answers in these situations. Is the damage to the vehicle consistent with a pedestrian hitting the vehicle? And are the injuries to the individual consistent with being hit by a motor vehicle? Those are the questions that are permissible, not the collision question. It is resoundingly improper in this trial, in any trial where that is the ultimate conclusion for the jury. Yes, an expert can offer opinions, but every expert is bounded by the extent of their opinion, and that opinion on whether there was a collision would invade the province of the jury and the whole purpose why we are here, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Brennan.
So what Mr. Lisey is arguing is that in their opening statement, they repeatedly invaded the province of the jury because they must have asserted vehemently over and over again, there was no collision, over and over and over again. And he just told you that when his expert takes the stand, they'll have abundant evidence that this case is about the collision, but that is not the ultimate issue. The ultimate issue is manslaughter or mens rea for second-degree murder, not collision. They don't get to define the prosecution's case. They do not get to define or limit the prosecution's opinions. They have no case law. They have no study. They have no jurisdiction or jurisprudence to say what we are limited to. He's entitled to an opinion. His opinion is not limited to whether or not the defendant struck Mr. O'Keefe. That evidence is obvious. It's not whether or not there's damage to the car or Lexus. That evidence is obvious. He also is an enormous part of a biomedical engineer and an accident reconstructionist. He studied the tech stream data. They didn't, he did. And he's entitled to give an opinion. The tech stream data, based on fact and science and data, tells us when, if you put it together with other evidence, and where, when you contribute it with other evidence, this collision actually occurred. We don't have to play peekaboo and close our eyes to the reality of the fact that the evidence supports the conclusion to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty that the defendant struck Mr. O'Keefe with her Lexus in front of Fairview Road. I am not interjecting the defendant. I always refer to her car, so it is sanitized, her Lexus. I've been careful about that. I don't have to, but I'm very careful about it. He is relying on the tech stream data, the physical evidence, his independent studies. He is allowed to offer an opinion about whether the injuries are consistent with the damage to the car, whether the damage to the car is consistent with the injury to Mr. O'Keefe. And he's also allowed to answer, in his opinion, the issue of a collision, putting aside the fact that that was emphasized and repeated in the opening statement, and it's going to happen again when other people testify. It's not our fault that ARCA didn't testify or look into the tech stream data, or they don't have an expert for it. It doesn't belittle or limit that evidence. We expect to ask Dr. Welcher, does he have an opinion to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty whether the defendant's Lexus collided with Mr. O'Keefe on January 29, 2022, around 12:32 a.m. That is one of the opinions we're going to ask him. Nothing to do with the ultimate opinion of guilt or innocence, or whether it's manslaughter or there's mens rea for second-degree murder.
And what was your second? You said that's one of the opinions you're going to ask him. What else are you
I
looking
will
at?
also ask him about whether the injuries are consistent with.
With what?
I'm going to ask him after this part about the difference between a clip or a side swipe as opposed to a full-on injury, pedestrian collision from a front or back of a bumper. And there are further slides to emphasize that point. And so there'll be an opinion regarding that as well.
And you,
Consistency with a side swipe or a clip.
okay, so this is not the end of Dr. Welch's testimony. He's just moving on to another area.
It's close, but it's not the end.
Okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
Your Honor, here's a case. Attorney Brennan said, go to case law, here it is. Commonwealth v. Coleman, 366 Mass 705. And it stands for the proposition exactly that I articulated. I won't repeat it. Secondly, Your Honor, we practice what we preach. I have the ARCA report right in front of me, and I have the report of—
Is that a new one, or is that a—
This is the new one.
Okay.
It's also, the old one is the same. So I can, either one is the same. They do not, Mr. Brennan incorrectly said what our experts are going to do. I don't know why he did that, because he has these in writing. Neither Dr. Wolf or Dr. Rentschler talk about a collision, a conclusion. It's consistency. It's those two questions I said at sidebar. And for reference, Your Honor, for the most recent is page 15. There is no—
I don't have that report, so I'd like a copy of that report.
Your Honor, a copy, and I also, Your Honor, refer Your Honor to ARCA's existing report, which I'm going to do from memory. I think it's February of 2024 that was done for the U.S. Department of Justice and FBI, where they basically said and gave opinions on those two items I spoke to you at sidebar. So Attorney Brennan is incorrect when he says what our experts are going to say or not. We've already committed in writing to what they're going to say. We're consistent. We practice what we preach.
All right. So we will discuss this tomorrow before we start. I'll tell you my ruling tomorrow before we start. I need to go back and see what exactly came in to evidence today. All right. So I'll see you in the morning.
All right.
All right. So with that, we are we're in heavy rain now on the road to home. What a finish! What a finish to that. Mr. Alessi objected to the scientific certainty, to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, saying this is the province of the jury. You cannot invade the province of the jury. And Mr. Brennan countered and said, but you sure did during your open, because you went the other way on that same issue. And Mr. Brennan said they don't have any case law. Their experts didn't look at this. And he's like, I don't know why you said that. Here's what our experts are doing. Yes, we have case law. Here's a citation. So now the judge has a ruling to make first thing in the morning. It's going to be a late start tomorrow with an hour later start. But we did hear that we are not at the end of this witness testimony, but very close to the end. There still has a little bit more talking about the glancing blow or the direct hit, whether the injuries are consistent with what you might see from a car accident. But the judge still has to rule if she will allow this big statement in about the collision. Did the collision occur to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty? So, wow. What a big finish there. Oh man, we're gonna go to the right, Raleigh. Looks like we're in Raleigh now, so about an hour and a half from home. No? Oh, maybe we're about 2 hours from home. Man, rain's slowing us down a little bit. You can see, we can barely see out the window. Visibility about 100 yards. Katie Rustin says, hate to say it, Paul might have been better. The overall aperture versus ARCA is going to be mind-blowing. It'll be similar to a toddler boxing Mike Tyson. Their science is not very sciencey. It's more of an arts and crafts session. Deb, that is awesome. That's funny. Katie Rustin, I feel like I'm watching Nickelodeon Experiment back in the day. Next will be Slime. Mathis says, look at the experiments blood analyst Dwayne Deaver did for the Michael Peterson staircase trial. It later turned out he faked tons of stuff. Not familiar with that one. Natalie, amazed by RA streaming on the road. It's not perfect, but it worked. Every time we go under an overpass like that, we just get a hiccup in the signal. So next time we'll have to tether the cell phone to a router. So we'll have Starlink and cellular will be the fallback. So there are ways I can improve it going forward. It's raining in Norway also. Man, here's what I'm gonna do. I know Ian's not live streaming tonight. When I get home, I'm gonna see if I can pull up just the parts of this testimony where they reenact stuff, where they're playing the video on the screen. I want to show it in slow motion and just see what's there, because I think that is probably the weakest and obviously the most laughable part of what was otherwise a pretty sound testimony. The laser scanning of the cars, putting the pieces together, being able to basically do what they do with NFL football with all the different cameras. They build the 3D image and they're able to look at it from different perspectives. That would have been really useful. Instead, the big finish on that one, they showed a bad angle as well. And I'm not sure if that was just for their benefit, but it's crazy. You missed the reenactment and the dress up. You missed the cosplay. Mrs. RA has rocked this drive. Thank you. Yes, I think what's going to happen is we're going to probably pull over and I'll take over. Do you want me to take over driving? She says yes. So last stop on the way home. If you want to, we can. So, or you can drive through it. It looks like it's clearing up a little bit. Do you see a cat in the visibility? No, can't see a cat. There's not enough cat to track. There's not enough snow to track a cat. The wiper is angry. The wiper in front of this is it's adjusted wrong. I've got it one notch too low, and so it keeps hitting the bottom of the window. So I need to fix that, and then it'll be a lot quieter. MVP goes to Mrs. R.A. We're looking for a stop. There might be a rest stop up here we can do. Oh, or she's going to keep driving until I'm done streaming. So I guess I'm the... Can I remove the wiper sound? I could. I tried to mute it during testimony so you didn't hear it, but I might have got it backwards sometimes. It rained nearly your entire... It rained nearly the entire drive home. It did. That's what we did. We took a weather tour. Starry is a rock star. What highway are we on?
We don't know.
No clue. We're sort of near the Raleigh-Durham area. The exit 270. I'm looking for a mile marker.
I think
Past Durham. We're basically going sort of straight to Greenville, sort of cutting through North Carolina from the top western corner towards Greenville. Can't believe how good your kids are. Well, we raise them right. Just kidding.
It's because we're so amazing.
Clearly, it's a reflection on how what wonderful parents we are. No, they are just really good kids, and they have iPads right now and are playing games, and they're perfectly happy.
You're so perfectly happy, though, huh?
They're all happy. How you guys doing back there? Yeah, they're all good. How's the battery? Good. The battery is running everything. It runs the laptop. 50%. Sweet. It'll last for another 2 hours. Just past your old exit, Detect Vids. Raining in Nebraska. It's raining all of Tennessee, Virginia, and North Carolina is raining right now. We are in the road construction area. Okay. I'm gonna wrap it up so I can tell Mrs. R.A. to stop somewhere and let me run around the car and do a Chinese fire drill, and then I'll take over the drive because she has been a rock star driving thus far. So we're in Chapel Hill. Sweet. Beep, beep. We're in a construction area, so they've got us driving over the rumble strips on the side of the road. All right, tonight when you go home, please hug the people you love, smile at someone, make their day just a little bit better, and please stay safe till we go live again. Next time we go live, it will be from the Recovery Addict studio. No more road trip for us. We'll be out of the rain, back in the studio, under lights, with good audio and sound effects and everything else. Thanks for your patience, as this was not the most optimum scenario to watch, and I realized that it was a little bit tricky and not the best for some of y'all. So thanks for your patience there. We'll be home here in a couple hours. And maybe we'll do a live tonight to talk a little bit about this testimony. Specifically, Dr. Welsher, when he reenacted stuff. I want to do that in slow motion. We'll put it on the replay machine. We've got a traffic stop upstairs. We'll put on the replay machine and see if we can pull some things from it that maybe he didn't intend, that might show a little more bias than he thought existed in the scenario. So, ooh, it's a crash. Yeah, they'll let you in. You guys want to see the crash? Let's see.
Road trip.
Let me adjust the camera a teensy bit.
Oh, it's really not that bad when we go slowly. But then we'll never get home. Come on in, Ultimate.
Nissan, there's room for you. Come on in. It was not a crash. It's just a semi truck off to the side with a state trooper on his tail. It's risky pulling off the road in North Carolina. Those soft shoulders are, I mean, they call them soft for a reason. You'll sink right up to your axles after it's a little bit wet. So, shut out the window, lawyer. I was going to shout out, you can't park there, but no. Be careful. Might be called for an expert witness. Thank you for the well wishes. You guys, thanks for coming on the road trip with us. Love this community. Love the support you give us. It is incredible. It makes it all possible. And we had fun on this one. We had a lot of fun. So got to see some parts of the before. And you know, I haven't been able to do this since, I mean, growing up, this was never an option. So this is really neat. But all right. You guys have a good night. We'll see you a little bit later tonight, hopefully with some slow-mo replay action from what happened today, maybe some highlight reels or something. Have a good one. We'll see you guys. Bye.
Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated